I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. And I am done. Okay, so I just finished up listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman, and I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was just right now. So this book is amazing. This is so good. Easy 5 out of 5. I feel kind of awkward saying it's 5 out of 5 because this book is just dumb. This is a dumb premise. But I couldn't have had much more fun. It's such a fun dynamic. I love when books do that to me. Purely on the concept here and in some of the execution. It's silly. It's ridiculous. I have no right enjoying this book as much as I did, but nonetheless, I did. It's incredible. I have had more people telling me to read this book than any other book, and I think they're doing it based on them knowing that I would like it, based on the other stories that I've said I've liked. I mean, I've read other progression type fantasy books, and every time I do a review on one, I get people jumping in droves and say, Matt, go read Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I put it off. And I put it off because it sounds ridiculous. I mean, the concept of this book is that within the first couple pages, you have this guy Carl who is standing outside in his boxers and no shoes, and his cat, and all of the buildings in his city and around the world are immediately crushed like sardine cans and go into the earth. Everybody inside of them dies. The only people left are the people that happen to be outside in the middle of the night. I guess daytime on the other side of the world, but just happen to be outside. And what happened is a alien world has taken over the world. In fact, they've generated people on this world. They were the people that started Earth, and they farm these worlds to create a game show. And Earth is the host of this game show, and all of those surviving have to participate in this game show, where they traverse through a 20-floor dungeon, trying to kill beasts and each other to try to become the ultimate victor at the bottom of the 20-floor dungeon. That's the premise. It's like a game show that trillions of people around multiple universes are watching, and it's like the biggest thing that's ever existed. And this guy Carl is at the heart of this story. And that just sounds dumb. It just does. But the execution is wonderful. And not just the execution of Matt Dinniman, but the execution of Jeff Hayes, the audiobook narrator. This is without a doubt in the stratosphere for wonderful audiobook narrations. As I think about it right now, I can't think of a fantasy series narration other than The First Law and Gentleman Bastard that is better than this. I don't know if they're better than this, but they're in that. I've always said that those two are the greatest two, and there's a big drop off to number 3. No longer. Now there is 3 at the top. It's incredible. You will have your mind blown that there is only one person doing the voices here. The voice actor, not only is he incredible beyond belief, but he also plays with like studio effects to make it even more interesting. He'll like use voice modulators to make these different alien voices, to have like female voices instead. And it's incredible. This book is hilarious. I openly laughed out loud more times than I can count. And I feel bad saying that I laughed at things in this book because they are so juvenile and ridiculous. But you have to just give into it. Once you finally realize what the tone of this book is, and you just kind of accept it, it becomes a lot more interesting and fun and funny. The humor is not going to work for everybody. Humor never does. And I have been very critical about humor in books in the past. And yeah, it clicked for me. And maybe that says something about me having like a super juvenile personality or something that I never knew I really had, because the humor here is very juvenile. But nonetheless, out loud laughing while I'm driving around my car. People must have looked at me like I was ridiculous. Hopefully they thought I was talking on the phone and hearing a funny story, because if they heard what I was actually listening to, they would have just been like, Matt, what's wrong with you? So in this book, You've got these like different power-ups as they're trying to go down. They're trying to collect loot. There's these really funny rules involved with what they can do and what they can't do. The AI that's down there that's kind of narrating things for the television crew that's following them and is just hysterical. I mean, I can't tell you how funny and charming and just downright amazing this story was. Who wouldn't like this? It is a progression fantasy. And what I mean by progression fantasy is that it's got kind of video gamey elements where you have this character starting off as 0 and they're going to turn into a hero. And I think you could say this is like a lit RPG because the characters have these stats associated with them. I mean, in fact, I don't think it's a lit RPG. It's very much a lit RPG. And I say that and people always ask what I mean by that. And it's just, they have classes, they have stats, they can upgrade them, they get better weapons, better technology as they go along, and after a while, these characters turn into a very different character than the way they started because of how powerful they are. And the monsters are scaling up with them in this case, so it keeps things really fresh and interesting and incredible from start to finish. Literally, from the start to the finish, I had a big, goofy smile on my face. And as I think about this, I don't know that I've ever had more confidence in a second book being just as good as the first. I am quite certain that every single one of these books that I'm going to read, I'm going to feel the exact same way about, just because of the way that the writer approaches this. I think there's 6 or 7 books out. I think there's a plan to be like 10 of them, which would make sense. If you read this book, it would mathematically make sense that there would be like 10, but we'll see. Who knows? I haven't really followed up on it. I try not to research too much about books before I read them, and I like to go in very blind. When I went into this one, all I knew is that it was named Dungeon Crawler Carl, and that it was a lit RPG. That's it. But I don't think anything will get ruined for you by hearing the very basic stuff that I'm talking about now. Because you have to see it pulled off in execution. I think you're going to know really quickly whether this book is for you or not. For me, it clicked not immediately. I knew I was having fun, but it was that moment that I gave in. And I think it was probably around like the 2-hour mark. I don't know how many pages that is, maybe 50. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm just having a blast. And on my Discord channel, which if you're not a part of, please join. There's a link down below in the description. I was talking about it with people, and there's other people kind of reading it at the same time, and everybody felt the exact same way. So, if you're into lit RPGs, you've probably already read this. If you're into progression fantasies, you've probably already read this. But if you haven't, then you must. If you play video games, and if you've ever played an RPG video game, then you have to read this. Because it's so natural for the people that kind of like that sort of thing. But if you're into more like highbrow stuff, if you're really into like more advanced fantasy books, and that's all you like, I like that stuff too, but it's not all I like. But if that's really all you're into, yeah, this is not going to be for you. By any stretch of the imagination, it's not going to be for you. You're going to hate it. But if you're that other type, then you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. Just super fun. And get the audiobook. You got to do it. The audiobook is special. And if you don't have Audible and you want a free credit, if you haven't done a free trial yet, I have a link down below in the description. It would help me out if you use my promo code. I get a little kickback from Amazon every time you do that. So hit me up with that if you can, if you'd be so kind. So check this book out. It's awesome. Can't wait to read the next one. Can't wait to read the next like 6 of them. Wonderful stuff. This guy is amazing. Give him your money. He deserves it. Thank you so much, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, Brian, CJ, Darren, Jonathan, My Book is Lit, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Anna, Andra, Angelo, Ben, Blair, Brock, Evan, Jen B, Harry B, Jamie, Jeff Pixler, Maria, Michael Sugarman, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion.